Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Your Honor.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask question number 4, standing in my name of the Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs. Given that the United Nations General Assembly has, in an overwhelming majority vote, recognized the National Transitional Council as the sole representative of Libya in the United Nations, will the Minister please state what is his government's position with respect to the interim government in Libya, led by the National Transitional Council, and how he intends to proceed in respect of this country's relations with Libya?
Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs, question number 4.
Mr. Speaker, honourable members. Mr. Speaker, we are all aware, or should be aware, of the deliberations regarding the National Transitional Council of Libya over the past several weeks. But it came to a decision at the 66th sitting of the United Nations General Assembly recently in New York. Mr. Speaker, basically, we know that the United Nations decided to, after a debate, decided to seat the National Transitional Council. It's interesting, Mr. Speaker, the question states this was done by an overwhelming majority of the United Nations. I think it is important to note that the United Nations consists of 193 members, and in that vote, 114 voted to seat them, percentage of 59%. So, Speaker, St. Vincent's position is well known. It has been made public, and I assume the honourable member knows that. In the vote, St. Vincent took the principal position because, you know, Mr. Speaker, in deciding to seat a member of the United Nations, it's a very detailed, it's a very complex issue at times, because that is why the United Nations state, after much wrangling, it wasn't so straightforward. In revising the answer to this question, Mr. Speaker, the whole question of seating a member is guided. There are a lot of documents, but one of interest I would say that we should refer to is what is known as the Montevideo Convention. And that convention, the Article 1, indicates 4 criteria qualifications to seat a member. And I note, 1 is it must have a permanent population, 2, a defined territory, 3, a government, and 4, the capacity to enter relations with other states. Mr. Speaker, I want us to note 2 of these conditions. 1, that there must be an existing government, and 2, a capacity to enter relations with other states. Mr. Speaker, we have been following very closely the situation in Libya. And to today, I don't think it is proper to say that there exists a proper government. If you don't have a proper government, I don't know that there is a Minister of Foreign Affairs, for example. And therefore, we have not judged that the situation there is quite ready to qualify that council as sufficient to acknowledge. Others have, but we argued from the position that we think is of principle. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to read again from the United Nations documents. The position of the representative of the South African Development Community, the SADC, Angola, that presented the arguments. And it said that he said his delegation had question of process, legality, and principle, which it would raise in connection with the report of the Credentials Committee. The delegation firmly believes that the United Nations should remain an organization of principles governed by the rule of law. As such, rules and procedures adopted by the GA, that is General Assembly, should not be disregarded merely because it was expedient. He went on to say, among other things, let me be clear, a unity government has not been formed, and the National Transitional Council had committed itself to doing so and crafting a new constitution and a free Libya. Notwithstanding the fact that it was in control, the National Transitional Council was not in government in Libya, or interim or otherwise. Well, now I think it is accepted it is interim. But Mr. Speaker, all of us watch the news and we read online. I recall when the quote-unquote rebels reached Tripoli, a virtual mission accomplished was announced. Most people, I think, expected that that was it. But today, as we speak, we are hearing reports that there is fierce resistance still in cities. In other words, there is still a lot of uncertainties in this whole thing. But, Mr. Speaker, St. Vincent and the Grenadines has and continues to have diplomatic relations with the state of Libya. We never broke them. Mr. Speaker, we are prepared to acknowledge a government when we think that government truly represents the full wishes of all the parties in Libya. Mr. Speaker, I think it is important to note that, you see, when we make these decisions, it's important to see the position of our government. CARICOM, we are taking a position which is not very different from the African Union. The African Union, the NTC has not yet been seated there, and that's their region. It's like us in CARICOM, where CARICOM has not accepted a member state, but we are asking other peoples to accept them. Mr. Speaker, diplomacy is serious business, and it's a very involved issue. And I don't think that we should always rush into decisions. And I heard you quote something earlier about one of your colleagues. We have taken a principled position, backed by, I think, not an insignificant amount of people of other countries. So, Speaker, just for completion, in the vote, CARICOM members, there are two votes actually that went on. One, it was proposed by, I think it was Angola, yes, that we defer, that the United Nations defer a decision on seating the National Transitional Council because of all I have just said and more. And that vote from CARICOM was supported by, that is, for deferral, interestingly, by two CARICOM countries, St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Jamaica. Two CARICOM countries opposed that resolution. And all it was Belize and St. Lucia. Antigua, Suriname, and Trinidad and Tobago abstained. And all the others were absent. It's interesting, they were absent. See, our country, one of the things I'm proud about St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we are not afraid to take a position when it is principled. Mr. Speaker, but more important is that for persons who have been following the news, the real big ticket item at the United Nations was really the position on Palestine. That was, if you listen to news, that's what was going on. And Mr. Speaker, it is interesting that I didn't hear the other side make any statement about Palestine. Mr. Speaker, because they're afraid of what the Americans may say. Mr. Speaker, we were principled and forthright with our position on Palestine. Mr. Speaker, the last time I checked, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the person, the authority to acknowledge any government is supposed to be rested in the executive, which is this government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, either the Prime Minister or the Minister of Foreign Affairs. But I noticed that some of the people usurping that authority and making pronouncement about accepting NTC. Well, I am still by the Constitution of St. Vincent and the Grenadines the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Despite what others may have wished. And as far as I know, the leader of our government, and our government has decided to go a particular path, which I have just outlined. And when we think it is appropriate, as guided by principles I have outlined, we would do what we find most appropriate to do. Much obliged, Mr. Speaker.
Supplementary, Mr. Speaker.
Supplementary question.
Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Minister indicated that this country continues to have diplomatic relations with Libya. Would you please indicate with whom we are conducting those diplomatic relations currently? Are we in contact with representatives of some other entity in Libya? And secondly, whether he considers that the vote, well, first of all, to state what is the principled position that was adopted. You said several times that we took a principled position. State for the record what that principled position is, and how is it principled, and whether the 114 members who voted to accept the National Transitional Council, whether in your opinion those votes were unprincipled.
But Mr. Speaker, I have stated that St. Vincent did not break diplomatic relations with Libya. It is, if you want to say it is there on hold until we are satisfied that there is a legitimate, proper, established government. And we'll continue from there. In response to the second, I have outlined the principle. I thought that was clear. I don't see why I should repeat again. I think with respect, I think I speak proper English. And I think my explanation was fairly clear enough for the average speaking Vincentian to understand.